At the company retreat, my wife's lover raised his glass and mocked me in front of everyone. To the loser paying for her future. I walked out without a word. What did it know? I held the one signature that could destroy both their careers, and I was about to use it. My name is Vincent Harper. I'm 49 years old, Senior Risk Management Director at Kellerman Financial Group. It's the kind of position that sounds boring until you realize I have signature authority on major transactions. That detail matters more than you'd think. My wife Lauren is 43, Director of Strategic Partnerships at the same firm. We have 2 sons. Connor is 16, looks exactly like me. Then there's Noah, 8 years old, with blonde hair that never came from either side of our family. I love that kid from day one, never questioned it. 6 months ago, I got a DNA test. He's not mine. The company retreat happened in late September at a resort in the Berkshires. 3 days of team building and drinking. Lauren had been excited for weeks, buying new outfits, getting her hair done. I thought she was being professional. The formal dinner was on the second night. Crystal chandeliers, mountain views, open bar. I sat with the audit team while Lauren worked the room. That's when I noticed Blake Montgomery watching her. 36, senior account executive, the kind of guy who made my instincts scream. He stood during dessert, champagne glass raised. The room quieted, expecting some corporate speech. Instead, he turned to our table, eyes finding Lauren first, then me. I want to make a toast, Blake announced. To the loser paying for her future. The room went silent. Someone dropped a fork. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Lauren's face flushed, but she smiled. She actually smiled and put her hand on his arm like this was some inside joke. I set down my glass, stood up, and looked at them both. Classy, I said. Then I walked out. Steady, calm, past the shocked faces and whispers. Lauren called my name once. I didn't stop. I drove 3 hours back to Boston in silence, my mind working through everything I'd been avoiding. When I got home past midnight, I went straight to my study and pulled out the file I'd been keeping. DNA results confirming Noah wasn't mine. Photos from my private investigator, Frank Patterson. Evidence of Lauren's affair with Blake going back 2 years. Hotel receipts. Text messages about their future together. I sat in the dark, staring at those documents. Something cold settled in my chest. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Just calculating calm. Because Blake thought I was the loser. He had no idea I controlled the Kellerman Ironwood merger. The deal that would make or break careers. His career. Lauren's career. And I hadn't signed it yet. I opened my laptop and looked at the signature line on the merger documents. My signature. The last one needed. I've been holding off for weeks. Something telling me to wait. Now I knew why. My phone buzzed. Lauren, where did you go? We need to talk. I turned off my phone and opened my secure email. One message to my mentor, Charles Donovan. One to my attorney. One to Frank Patterson. By sunrise, I'd have everything in motion. But tonight, I just sat there in the silence, thinking about that toast. To the loser paying for her future. We'd see about that. Lauren didn't come home that night. I didn't expect her to. She stayed at the retreat, probably celebrating with Blake, thinking I'd cool off and forgive her like I always did when she pushed boundaries. She didn't know this time was different. I spent the night in my study going through everything Frank Patterson had compiled over the past 6 months. Frank was 60, retired Boston PD, the kind of investigator who didn't ask questions when you hired him, just delivered results. And he'd delivered plenty. The first folder contained photographs. Lauren and Blake entering the Riverside Inn on a Tuesday afternoon, emerging 3 hours later. Blake's hand on her lower back at a client dinner I wasn't invited to. The two of them in his car outside her gym, her head thrown back laughing at something he said. Each photo was time-stamped, dated, cataloged like evidence at a crime scene. The second folder hurt more. Printed emails going back 18 months. Can't wait to see you tonight. He's traveling again. We have the whole weekend. I've never felt like this before. That last one was from Lauren to Blake, dated 2 months after Noah's 8th birthday party. The party where I'd started suspecting something was wrong. The third folder contained the DNA results. I'd done the test after Noah asked why he didn't look like me or Connor. Lauren had laughed it off, said he took after her grandmother. But her grandmother had dark hair and brown eyes, not blonde and blue. I sent samples to 3 different labs. All 3 came back the same. Probability of paternity, 0%. Frank had included a note, paper-clipped, to the DNA report. Asked around. Your wife's boy looks like Montgomery. Really looks like him. Might want that tested too. I stared at that note for a long time. Blake was Noah's father. The timeline fit. 9 years ago, Blake had been a junior associate at Kellerman, before he transferred to the Chicago office for 2 years. Before I thought the affair had started. My phone buzzed at 6 a.m. Lauren. Vince, please. Let me explain. It wasn't what it looked like. I typed back one word. Really? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. Can we talk when I get home? I won't be here. I sent back. Talk to my attorney. Attorney. You're overreacting. It was a stupid joke. I didn't respond. Instead, I called Charles Donovan. He answered on the first ring despite the early hour. Vincent, Charles said, his voice gravelly from sleep. I got your email. Tell me what you need. Charles was 70, retired from Kellerman 5 years ago after serving as CEO for 15 years. He'd mentored me since I was 30, taught me everything about risk management and corporate warfare. More importantly, he still sat on Kellerman's board and owned enough shares to move mountains. The Ironwood merger, I said. I'm pulling my signature. Silence on the other end. Then, personal or professional? Both. Blake Montgomery involved. He's the primary beneficiary. Him and Lauren. Charles exhaled slowly. Son, are you sure about this? There's no walking back from what you're about to do. I look at the photos spread across my desk. My wife with another man. The DNA test proving my youngest son wasn't mine. Blake's smug face at that dinner, toasting to the loser paying for her future. I'm sure, I said. Then consider it done. I'll make some calls. By Monday morning, that merger will be in compliance review. Blake Montgomery and anyone associated with him will be flagged for conflict of interest investigation. Thank you, Charles. Vincent, he said, voice softer now. I'm sorry. I know what betrayal feels like. But you're doing the right thing. Protect yourself first. I hung up and opened my laptop. The Kellerman-Ironwood merger documents were still on my screen, that signature line still blank. I added a note to the file. Signature withheld pending ethics review. Potential conflict of interest identified. Full investigation recommended. Then I sent it to legal, to compliance, to the board. By the time Lauren got home, the entire company would know something was wrong with the deal. They just wouldn't know why yet. But they would soon enough. Lauren came home Sunday afternoon. I heard her car pull into the driveway, the engine cutting off, then silence. She sat out there for 10 minutes before finally coming inside. When she walked through the door, she looked tired, makeup smudged, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Vince, she started, setting her bag down. We need to talk about what happened. I was sitting in the living room, coffee in hand, looking calmer than I felt. Okay, talk. She sat down across from me, hands folded in her lap. Blake was drunk. He has this stupid sense of humor, and he took it too far. I'm sorry you were embarrassed, but it wasn't what you're thinking. What am I thinking? I asked. That there's something between us. There isn't. He's a colleague, that's all. I nodded slowly, took a sip of coffee. So you put your hand on his arm and smiled, because it was funny. I was trying to defuse the situation. If I'd gotten angry, it would have made it worse. Right. I set down my cup. How long have you been sleeping with him? Her face went pale. What? I'm not. I haven't, Vince. Where is this coming from? I stood up, walked to my study, and came back with one of Frank's folders. I dropped it on the coffee table between us. She stared at it like it might explode. Open it, I said. Her hand shook as she picked it up. Inside were photos. Her and Blake at the Riverside Inn. The two of them in his car. Timestamps, dates, locations. She flipped through them, her face losing color with each image. You hired someone to follow me? Her voice rose. That's insane. Answer the question. How long? Lauren closed the folder, tears starting. 2 years. Maybe longer. I don't know, it just happened, Vince. We worked together, we connected, and you were always traveling, always busy with work. So it's my fault. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we grew apart. I picked up my phone and pulled up a text message. This is from Blake to you. 3 weeks ago. Can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Soon we'll have everything we want. I looked at her. What does that mean? She wiped her eyes. Nothing. He talks like that sometimes. Does no one know Blake is his father? The room went dead silent. Lauren's mouth opened, closed, Opened again. What? DNA test. 3 different labs. 0% chance he's mine. But he looks a lot like Blake, doesn't he? Tears streamed down her face now. Vince, please, I can explain. You've been lying to me for 9 years. You let me raise another man's child while you planned your future with him. I stood up. I talked to my attorney yesterday. I'm filing for divorce. You can fight me, but you won't win. I have everything documented. You can't take my sons from me. Connor is 16. He can choose where he lives. Want to guess who he'll pick? I headed toward the door. As for Noah, we'll see what the court says about paternity fraud. Where are you going? Hotel. You have until tomorrow to move out of the master bedroom. I'll be back Tuesday. Vince, wait, please. She followed me to the door. What about my job? What about the merger? I stopped, looked back at her. You should probably ask Blake about that. Oh, wait, you can't. He's been flagged for ethics violations. Compliance is investigating the entire Ironwood deal. Didn't you get the email? Her face went white. What did you do? I did my job. I identified a conflict of interest and reported it. That's what a senior risk management director does. I opened the door. By the way, you might want to call your own attorney. When they start asking questions about undisclosed relationships during merger negotiations, you'll need one. I left her standing there, walked to my car, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw her collapse against the doorframe. The loser paying for her future, Blake had said. He had no idea how expensive that future was about to become. Monday morning hit Blake Montgomery like a freight train he never saw coming. I wasn't there to see it, but Stephen Mitchell was. Stephen worked in accounting, 45 years old, quiet guy who kept his head down and did solid work. He was also someone Lauren had publicly humiliated 2 years ago during a presentation, calling his analysis amateur hour in front of the entire executive team. Stephen remembered. When I'd asked him to keep me informed about any developments with Blake, he'd been more than happy to help. He called me at 9:15. Vincent, you need to hear this. Blake just got escorted to HR. Tell me everything. He showed up late, around 9. Walked in like he owned the place, coffee in hand. But his key card wouldn't work at the elevator. Security had to manually override it. Then 2 people from HR met him in the lobby and asked him to come with them. He tried to joke it off, but they weren't smiling. He's in the 4th floor conference room now. Legal and compliance are in there too. Who from legal? Patricia Hendricks. And that investigator from corporate compliance, the serious one, Anderson. Thanks, Stephen. Keep me posted. My pleasure, Stephen said. After what she did to me, watching this unfold is therapeutic. I hung up and checked my email. Charles had sent me an update at 8 a.m. The board had officially flagged the Ironwood merger for immediate ethics review. All parties involved were being questioned about potential conflicts of interest. Blake's name was at the top of the list, followed by Lauren's. My phone buzzed. Lauren, what did you tell them? Blake is being investigated. They're asking about us. I typed back. I told them the truth. There's a relationship between 2 people working on the merger that wasn't disclosed. That's an ethics violation. You're destroying his career. No, you 2 did that when you decided to mix business with your affair. I'm just making sure the company knows about it. She didn't respond for 20 minutes. Then what about me? Am I being investigated too? You'll find out soon enough. At 10:30, Lauren was called into HR. Stephen texted me. Your wife just went into the same conference room. She looks terrified. Good. She should be. I spent the morning in my office, handling actual work while the drama unfolded 2 floors below. Around noon, Charles called. The board meeting is this afternoon at 2, Charles said. We need your formal statement about why you're withholding your signature on the Ironwood deal. I'll be there. Vincent, they're going to ask difficult questions. About your marriage, about your personal involvement. Are you prepared for that? I've been preparing for 6 months, Charles. I'm ready. At 1:45, I walked into the boardroom. 8 members present, including Charles. They all looked at me with a mix of curiosity and concern. Patricia Hendricks from legal was there too, laptop open, ready to take notes. Thank you for coming, Vincent, the board chairman said. Roger Hastings. We need to understand why you flagged the Ironwood merger for ethics review. I set my briefcase on the table and pulled out a folder. There's an undisclosed relationship between 2 senior employees working directly on this deal, Blake Montgomery and Lauren Harper. The relationship has been ongoing for approximately 2 years. Neither disclosed it as required by our conflict of interest policy. Given that both stand to benefit significantly from this merger's completion, I believe it compromises the integrity of the deal. Roger leaned forward. You have proof of this relationship. I slid the folder across the table. Documented evidence. Photographs, communications, hotel records, all collected by a licensed private investigator. Patricia opened the folder, her expression remaining neutral as she reviewed the contents. These are quite detailed. Lauren Harper is your wife, one board member said. Sandra Thompson. Doesn't that create a conflict for you? It does, I said, which is why I've already filed for divorce. My personal situation doesn't change the fact that company policy was violated. The room fell silent. Tuesday morning started with a phone call that destroyed what was left of Blake's world. I was in my office reviewing legal documents when Stephen texted me. You need to hear this. CEO just called Blake into his office. It's happening. Blake had spent Monday night calling everyone he knew, trying to find allies, trying to understand how everything had fallen apart so quickly. He found none. Charles had made sure of that. When you've been in the business for 40 years like Charles, you know exactly which dominoes to push. The CEO of Kellerman Financial Group was Martin Reynolds, 58, a man who'd built his reputation on zero tolerance for ethical violations. Charles had briefed him personally Monday evening. By Tuesday morning, Martin had made his decision. Blake was escorted to the executive floor at 9 a.m. The meeting lasted 12 minutes. Stephen called me right after. Blake just came out. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Security's boxing up his desk now. What about Lauren? Her phone's ringing. I can see her from here. She just went pale. I set down my coffee and waited. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. Lauren crying. Vince, please, you have to help me. Martin just called. He wants to see me in an hour. I can't help you, Lauren. Blake's been fired. They terminated him for ethics violations. They're going to do the same to me. Then you should probably get your story straight. This is your fault. You did this to us. No, I said, my voice cold. You did this when you chose to have an affair with a coworker on a major deal. I just made sure the company knew about it. What about Noah? What about Connor? You're destroying our family. You destroyed our family when you let Blake father our son and lied to me for 9 years. I stood up, walked to my window. Connor knows, by the way. I told him everything Sunday night. He's staying with my brother. Silence. Then, quietly, he hates me, doesn't he? He's disappointed. There's a difference. And Noah. Noah thinks Daddy's on a business trip. We'll figure out how to tell him when this is over. Lauren's voice hardened. I'm calling my attorney. I'm going to fight you on everything. The house, the assets, custody. You can try. But you committed paternity fraud, Lauren. You let me raise another man's child while lying to my face. No judge is going to look favorably on that. I'll tell them you're vindictive, that you're using your position to punish me. Go ahead. I have 2 years of documented evidence. Hotel receipts, text messages, emails where you and Blake discussed your future together. What do you have? She hung up. An hour later, Lauren was called to Martin's office. The meeting lasted 8 minutes. She came out with a severance agreement and a non-disclosure clause. Her career at Kellerman was over. Blake tried to call me that afternoon. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail, his voice shaking with rage. You think you've won, Harper? You think destroying my career makes you a man? You're still the loser who couldn't keep his wife satisfied. Enjoy your empty victory. I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. That evening, Charles called. The board approved restructuring the Ironwood deal. New team, new timeline. They want you to lead the risk assessment personally. I appreciate the confidence. Vincent, you did the right thing. It took courage to expose this, especially given your personal involvement. Thank you, Charles. How are you holding up? I looked around my empty house. Connor was with my brother. Noah was at Lauren's mother's, still confused about why Mommy and Daddy needed space. Lauren was somewhere with Blake, probably blaming everyone but themselves. I'm okay, I said. It's not over yet, but I'm okay. Wednesday afternoon, Connor came home. My brother dropped him off, and the kid walked in carrying his backpack like he was returning from a normal school trip, not from processing the fact that his mother had an affair and his little brother wasn't his full sibling. Dad, Connor said, dropping his bag by the door. Hey, buddy. I stood up from the couch. How are you doing? He shrugged, that teenage way of avoiding real answers. Uncle Mike talks too much. He means well. Connor walked to the kitchen, grabbed a soda from the fridge, then sat across from me. At 16, he looked more like me every day. Same dark hair, same stubborn jaw, same way of thinking through problems before speaking. Is it true? Connor finally asked. About Noah? Yeah. The DNA test confirmed it. And Mom knew the whole time. She knew. Connor nodded slowly, processing. That's messed up. It is. Does Noah know? Not yet. Your mother and I need to figure out how to tell him. I leaned forward. Connor, I need to ask you something. The court's going to want to know where you want to live. You're old enough to decide. With you, Connor said immediately. No question. You don't want to think about it. I've been thinking about it since Sunday. He set down his soda. Mom lied to you for years. She lied to all of us. And that guy Blake, the one she's with, he's a jerk. I saw how he looked at her at company events. I just didn't want to believe it. You shouldn't have had to deal with this. Neither should you. Connor stood up, paced the kitchen. What's going to happen with Noah? I'm fighting for joint custody at minimum. He's been my son for 8 years. Biology doesn't change that. What if Mom tries to keep him from you? She'll try. But I have documentation of everything. The affair, the paternity fraud, the lying. My attorney thinks we have a strong case. Connor turned to face me. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. When did you know? About Mom and Blake. I hesitated. I suspected for about 6 months. Got proof about 4 months ago. And you didn't say anything? I was gathering evidence. Making sure I understood everything before I acted. That must have been hard. Living with her, knowing what she'd done. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Connor came back, sat down. You're stronger than I thought. I'm not strong. I'm just practical. No, Dad. You're strong. Most guys would have exploded, made a scene, done something stupid. You played it smart. You protected yourself, protected me, and now you're protecting Noah. That's strength. I felt something tighten in my chest. Pride, maybe. Or just relief that my son understood. Thanks, Connor. So what happens now? Now we rebuild. Your mom will get visitation with you if she wants it, but you're old enough to refuse if you choose. Noah's situation is more complicated. The court will decide what's best for him. And Blake. Blake's done at Kellerman. He won't find work in this industry again, not after an ethics termination. Connor smiled slightly. Good. Guy deserved it. My phone buzzed. A text from Frank Patterson. Subject: Blake Montgomery applied for 3 positions today. All 3 companies called Kellerman for references. HR gave standard response. Terminated for policy violations. All 3 withdrew their offers. I showed Connor the message. The kid actually laughed. He really thought he could just move on like nothing happened. People like Blake always do. They think charm can fix everything. Well, he's finding out it can't. That evening, Connor and I ordered pizza and watched a game. Just the 2 of us, father and son, rebuilding what Lauren had broken. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Friday morning, my attorney called with news that made everything easier. Vincent, remember that prenuptial agreement you signed 15 years ago? Sandra Hayes asked, my divorce attorney. I've reviewed it thoroughly. There's an infidelity clause. I forgot about that, I said, sitting up straighter. Most people do, but it's very clear. In the event of proven adultery, the offending spouse forfeits rights to marital assets acquired during the marriage. You keep the house, the investment accounts, your retirement funds. She gets whatever she brought into the marriage and half of her own retirement, which was almost nothing. Exactly. She was entry-level when you married. You were already established. This clause protects you completely. What about Noah? Child support is separate from asset division. You'll still owe support if she gets custody. But given the paternity fraud, I think we can argue for minimal payments. You've been financially supporting a child you believed was yours under false pretenses. That afternoon, Lauren showed up at the house. She'd been staying with her mother, avoiding me since Tuesday. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, face puffy from crying. We need to talk about the divorce, Lauren said, sitting across from me. My attorney's handling it. Vince, please. Can't we be reasonable about this? Split things fairly, like you were fair when you lied about Noah for 9 years. She flinched. I know I messed up, but punishing me won't change anything. I'm not punishing you. I'm enforcing the prenup you signed. The one with the infidelity clause. Her face went pale. What clause? The one that says if either of us commits adultery, we forfeit our share of marital assets. You remember signing it, don't you? That was 15 years ago. I barely read it. Well, My attorney read it very carefully. You get nothing, Lauren. No house, no investments, nothing except what you brought into this marriage, which was basically your student loans. She stood up, shaking. You can't do this. I have rights. You had rights. You gave them up when you had an affair. I stood to face her. You made your choices. Now live with him. What about Noah? You're still going to pay for him, right? I'll support him because I love him. But the amount will reflect the fraud you committed. Lauren walked to the door, then turned back. I hope you're happy, Vince. You've destroyed everything. No, Lauren. You did that all by yourself. Blake Montgomery's world collapsed faster than he could process. By the following Monday, he'd burned through every contact, every favor, every relationship he'd built over 12 years in finance. Stephen kept me updated. Blake showed up at the Riverside Grill yesterday. Tried to network with some guys from Stillwater Capital. They wouldn't even let him sit down. Word travels fast, I said. Faster when Charles Donovan makes phone calls. I heard he personally called 8 major firms and told them what happened. Blake's toxic now. That evening, Blake called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Harper, Blake said, his voice different now. Desperate. We need to talk. We don't need to do anything. You've destroyed my career. I can't get a job anywhere. People won't return my calls. That's what happens when you're terminated for ethics violations. This is because of that stupid toast, isn't it? I was drunk. It was a joke. No, Blake. This is because you had an affair with a married coworker on a major deal and didn't disclose it. The toast just made me stop protecting you. Protecting me? What are you talking about? I knew about you and Lauren for 6 months. I could have reported at any time. But I waited, documented everything, built a case. Then you stood up at that retreat and called me a loser in front of everyone. That's when I decided you deserved what was coming. Silence on the other end. Then, you planned this. Every step. The compliance review, the board meeting, even timing your termination for maximum damage. You thought you were clever, Blake. But you were just predictable. Lauren's pregnant, Blake said suddenly. I froze. What? She's 8 weeks along. We just found out. That's my kid, Harper. Our kid. And you're destroying our ability to provide for it. Then you should have thought about that before you got involved with a married woman. My voice stayed cold. Good luck, Blake. You're going to need it. I hung up. Sat there staring at my phone. Lauren was pregnant with Blake's child. Another kid that wasn't mine. Another lie. But this time I felt nothing. No anger. No hurt. Just relief that I'd gotten out before being tied to her for another 18 years. 4 months after the retreat, I stood in a ballroom wearing a tuxedo, accepting an award I never expected. The Financial Leadership Council had named me Executive of the Year for excellence in corporate governance. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man Blake called a loser was being celebrated while Blake couldn't get a job interview. Charles introduced me, his voice carrying across the room. Vincent Harper exemplifies the courage it takes to put integrity above personal cost. When faced with a conflict that touched his own life, he chose transparency over comfort. That's true leadership. I took the stage, looked out at 300 industry professionals. Some knew the story. Most didn't, but they all understood what the award meant. Thank you, I said simply. Doing the right thing isn't always easy. Sometimes it costs you everything familiar. But integrity isn't negotiable. Not for me. Not for anyone who wants to lead with honor. The applause was genuine. Afterward, executives I'd never met came up to shake my hand, tell me they'd heard what happened, respected how I'd handled it. Connor was there in a suit, looking proud. Dad, that was amazing. Thanks for coming, buddy. Wouldn't miss it. He paused. Mom called me yesterday. Wanted to know if I'd come to her apartment. Meet the baby when it's born. Lauren had given birth to a girl 2 weeks ago. Blake's daughter. I'd sent a polite congratulations text, and nothing more. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. I'm still mad at her, but she's my mom, and the baby didn't do anything wrong. That's mature of you. You taught me that. Punish the guilty, protect the innocent. Connor smiled. Even when the innocent is your mom's affair baby. Noah was doing better too. He knew the truth now, handled it better than expected. So Blake's my biological dad, he'd asked. Does that mean I have to like him? When I told him no, he'd shrugged. Good, because you're my real dad anyway. Joint custody was working. Noah spent weekdays with me, weekends with Lauren. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. Blake wasn't in the picture much. Too busy delivering pizzas, trying to pay child support for the new baby, while living with his parents at 37. That night, I drove home alone, the award on my passenger seat. My house was quiet, but not empty. Connor was upstairs gaming with friends online. Noah's basketball sat by the door, waiting for tomorrow's practice. I'd lost a wife but kept my sons. Lost a marriage, but gained respect. Blake's toast echoed in my memory. To the loser paying for her future. Funny how that worked out. 10 months after everything fell apart, I met someone unexpected. Her name was Dr. Elizabeth Chun, 42, a psychologist who specialized in helping families navigate divorce. Connor's school counselor had recommended her when he was struggling. I'd gone to a consultation, expecting a clinical conversation about co-parenting strategies. Instead, I met someone who understood exactly what I'd been through. "Your son's incredibly resilient," Elizabeth said during our third meeting. "He's processing the betrayal in healthy ways. You've done good work with him." I just try to be honest. That's rarer than you'd think. Most parents in your situation either vilify the other parent or pretend nothing happened. You're letting your sons feel their feelings while still encouraging them to maintain relationships with their mother. That's mature. We started talking outside of sessions. Coffee, then lunch, then dinners where we discussed everything except my divorce. She was a widow. Her husband had died 3 years earlier from cancer. She understood loss, understood rebuilding. "I'm not ready for anything serious," I told her after our 5th dinner. "Neither am I," Elizabeth said, smiling. "But I enjoy spending time with you. Can't that be enough for now?" It could. It was. Connor met her accidentally when he came home early from a friend's house and found us having coffee in the kitchen. He looked at me, then at her, then back at me. "Dad's dating," Connor announced to Noah later. "Some lady who's actually really nice." Noah's response: "Is she cooler than Mom?" "Way cooler. She doesn't lie." Elizabeth met both boys properly a month later. She brought board games, didn't try too hard, just treated them like people. By the end of the evening, Noah was showing her his basketball trophies and Connor was explaining his college plans. "She's good for you," Connor said after she left. "You smile more. You approve." "Dad, you deserve to be happy. Mom messed up. You didn't. You get to move on." At work, the restructured Ironwood deal finally closed. I'd led the risk assessment personally, and it went smoothly. My reputation in the industry had actually grown from the controversy. People respected someone who put ethics first, even at personal cost. Blake sent me one last text, months after his termination. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed everything." I deleted it without responding. Blake still didn't understand. I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd simply stopped protecting people who didn't deserve protection. One Saturday morning, I woke up to find Connor making breakfast and Noah setting the table. "What's this?" I asked. "Father's Day breakfast," Connor said. "Even though it's not Father's Day. We just wanted to," Noah added. "Because you're a good dad." I sat down with my sons, ate slightly burnt pancakes, and realized something important. Blake's toast had been right about one thing. I had paid for their future, Lauren and Blake's, but not in the way he'd meant. I'd paid in patience, in planning, in sacrifice. And what I'd bought wasn't their success. It was my own freedom, my son's stability, and a future where the only people I owed anything to were the ones who actually deserved it. The loser had won after all.